Hello, Clarice. No, okay. I didn't mean to do that. Sure I did. How's everybody doing? It is yet another round of Monkey Business. Yours truly, Christopher C. The Stilts Frank, talking to you from the studios at WFC3. And as always, my faithful companions, the people who actually put up with me for half an hour every time we do this. You got Billy DeTore.
Hello.
Tanya Metris.
Hi.
Becca May.
Hello.
Tony DePicata.
Guten Tag.
And Wayne Brown.
Hello.
And on the phone, Deanna Schulman.
Hello.
Hi, Deanna. Are we having fun yet?
Oh,
Lots
we're
of
always
fun.
having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Always having fun. We're having a good time.
Always fun when you talk about stuff like this.
Nerd World News. The latest, the greatest, and all sorts of discussion about things that make us happy.
Who we are.
Who we are, yeah, actually. Embrace it, right? Well, what have we talked about in past few months now? We've talked about tabletop gaming. We've talked about Star Trek, Star Wars. What else have we talked about so far?
Tolkien lore.
Tolkien lore, a little bit of
comics in regards to
comic book TV.
TV.
Yeah, comic book TV. That was an interesting conversation because
we went all around the block several
we
times.
were all over God's green earth on that one. But hey, we're professionals. Yeah, right.
Just stop saying that because definitely people have figured out that we're not.
Yeah, but I think that's part of our charm. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to hit some serious
Marvel?
let's hit some comic book talk. How about we just do it? Little competition. DC versus Marvel.
Okay, so we're going comic books and not the TVs and movies?
We're going to go comic books.
Straight
up
We're going to go straight up comic books. And the lore.
Can I play with the board then?
Yes, sure.
Oh, just random sound effects. I better hide the fart noises.
I can just imagine if Tanya just finds that one button and just over and over again. Yeah, that's
I was
awesome.
gonna say because I don't read comic books, so
That's fine.
It's just
You never picked up a graphic novel? Nothing? You never heard of these characters before?
I've heard of the characters, yes.
Okay,
but,
how have you heard of these characters before? Come on.
Yeah.
How?
You?
Yeah, me. Okay. And that's it?
Well, I mean,
So you
yeah,
never
there's
before you
TV
met me,
and
you never
movies
knew
and
about
things
Superman, you never knew about Spider-Man,
well-
you never knew about Wonder Woman.
Well, of course, the TV show of Wonder Woman. I wanted to be Linda Carter.
Okay.
But
There was Denise Crosby was Wonder Woman too.
That's right.
Was she
Before-
really?
Was she
before Linda-
really?
Before Linda
Her
Carter.
and Ricardo Montalban.
Wow.
Denise Crosby, meaning Tasha Yar. Denise Crosby.
No, there's-
no.
There's another one.
No, it was Kathy
Kathy
Lee Crosby.
Oh, I was
It
going to
was another
say because
Crosby.
I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
Tasha Yar
No, it
was
wasn't
Wonder
her, but
Woman.
it
I'm
was a
like, I
blonde.
don't think so.
But it was a blonde.
It was a blonde.
Yeah.
I remember her now. She was in That's Incredible, right? The
Yeah.
Yes.
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 with
John Davidson.
John Davidson and Fran Tarkenton.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. That's incredible that I remember that. I can't remember what I ate yesterday, but I can remember that. That's amazing. All right, so let's talk about it. DC and Marvel, the two big houses in comic books today.
Now, I've always said that every comic book reader loves both of them, but all prefer one over the other.
Yeah.
Right. Like, for me, I'm a Marvel guy. But that's because the first title that I ever collected on a regular basis was The Amazing Spider-Man. So I was a Spider-Man guy, and that was the Marvel universe. And then Spider-Man would, he would be with the Avengers. He would hang out with the Fantastic Four. So that was my way of introducing myself to all these other, other books. And so that's why I became kind of a Marvel guy. But for you, Billy, you're a big Batman fan.
My first comic that I collected a lot was Justice League of America.
Okay.
Because at the time I'd grown up watching Super Friends on channel 13, WABC or ABC.
I did
network.
like that.
ABC Saturday mornings.
Exactly. So with them, and then you find the comic book, and there's Superman, and there's Batman, and there's Aquaman, and Flash. And you got all your heroes all in one group. It was like getting
Apache
12 comics
Chief.
in one.
Oh, my God.
Well, actually,
The
before Apache
Yeah, I know.
Chief, when you have Wendy Marvin and Wonder Dog helping them out on Super Friends.
See, okay, there we go.
Before the Wonder Twins.
But
Wonder Twins.
that led me
Activate.
to when
Form of something useless.
exactly.
Sorry.
When my
Form
brother
of something equally useless.
took me to the drugstore and said, pick out a couple comic books.
And that's the thing. You could buy them at drugstores. You could buy them at supermarkets. You could buy them almost anywhere.
Right.
You didn't have to go to a comic book store.
Yeah. And I wound up with Justice League because there was all my favorite characters plus others that weren't on the Super Friends but were cool. So Wonder Woman and Superman and Flash and the Atom and Green Arrow all together.
There was Eisner's downtown. You could buy them at, and in Worldwide News you can buy them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I must admit, now thinking back, and it took me a couple minutes, I did read Archie comics from the library.
And that's cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's
great.
my
love Archie comics
with
I still
Betty
read
and
Archie.
Veronica and
Jughead
Jughead.
Back when
and
I was a
Those are the
kid,
ones I did read.
You couldn't
okay.
get comics in the library, and now you can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I do on a regular basis.
Now remember, I'm younger than you are, so it was in our libraries.
Well, since just recently, since we've gotten into the convention business ourselves, and I can't count how many people have been like, "Oh, okay, you run that convention, great, yeah." And we'll talk about, I got my kids starting to read because of comic books, or I started reading because of comic books, things like that. So it's just interesting how it has influenced people over the years. Now, a quick bit of history: Marvel Comics started out as Timely Comics in 1939, all right, and then was recreated as Marvel in 1961. DC Comics started out as National Allied Publications in 1934.
Wow.
And it merged with Detective Comics and a couple of other subsidiary houses to become DC right about the same time. So it was about
National
about 30,
Periodic Publications.
Yep, that was another one. National Periodic Publications was on the list. So, so DC's been around technically 5 years longer. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they have some of those characters that are iconic. Wayne had mentioned his love for Superman.
Superman came out first. He's basically
1938.
38.
Yep.
Then was it about a year later?
Yeah,
Batman
39,
came out.
I think June of 39 for Batman.
And then you had the Marvel guys with Human Torch,
Human
Captain
Torch,
America,
Submariner.
and
The original Human Torch, because
Yeah.
it was not Johnny Storm, the
Right,
Human Torch.
right.
It was somebody else
He was
entirely.
a
like a
robot.
robot.
It was it was a robot. And they make allusions to that in a couple of Fantastic Four books. I've even seen an allusion to it in one of the Marvel movies. I can't remember which one it was, though, so I'm not going to go too worried about that. Or maybe it was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't remember. But, and it touches on something that I had said at the convention during one of the panels. We were talking about, it was the one that you and I were on, Billy, when we were talking about comic books and movies and TV, where it just, to me, it has always felt like Superman just kind of that acknowledged he's everybody's favorite because he's the standard that everybody was always kind of like looking to in terms of the
he's
hero.
Not really.
He's not in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I noticed
his comics sell less than not since Rebirth, but before Rebirth, Wolverine definitely outsold him. Batman outsold him. Half the Marvel universe outsold Superman.
Yeah, but and that's those are viable facts. But the long and the short of it is when people think of superheroes, the first person they're going to think of more often than not is Superman.
Right.
Whether are you into the book? No, you don't have to be into the book. Are you into all the movies? You don't have to be.
They're thinking of the classic Superman,
Exactly.
not the new
with
versions.
the red underwear on the outside.
Yeah,
Underwear
The
on
Christopher
outside.
Reeve Superman.
that man knew how to wear some Speedos. Let me tell you. But it all starts from there, and
They're not thinking of mean Superman, or,
Right.
Mopey
Superman.
Mopey hobo Superman.
and I really hope that in the ensuing DC movies they really kind of, because that was he says, "Oh the crest is the symbol of hope," but you're really not a hopeful dude, aren't you?
Yeah.
But in Supergirl, they've changed that.
Yeah,
They
the
really
Supergirl
have.
TV show has
In the
really nailed
series,
it.
yeah.
They really have brought that
And they've
sense
said
of,
that's in the Donnerverse anyway, so so it's
That's
more
good to see.
lighthearted.
So we can see the evolution of these characters over 70, 80, almost 90 years in some cases at this point. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man comes up in the 60s with the Fantastic Four when Marvel really starts kind of hitting the bricks with these big titles. Now, Tony, you've been telling me for months now that you've been looking forward to a good comic book discussion.
Yes, I have.
So where are you on this? Are you a Marvel, DC guy? Don't care. Your Image, Dark Horse,
Ooh, that's
Saga.
Gus hit me with a hard question. Okay, so here's
You're
how.
in college now. You can handle the big time.
Yeah, here's how I break it down. I like DC over Marvel, but I like Deadpool over most DC characters. I was a fan of Deadpool before the video game.
Yeah.
Before I was a hipster Deadpool fan.
Okay. I was a Deadpool fan before it was cool to be a Deadpool fan.
That's basically it.
Yeah,
I like Deadpool.
Just like Harley Quinn.
pretty much.
Yeah. People who are fans of Harley Quinn now, it's like, oh, I'm a fan of Harley Quinn. It's like, but were you a fan back when she was like, did DC animated?
Back in the animated Batman series.
Somebody actually told me, "Oh, I've loved her since she first came out in her comic book," and I'm like, "Okay, which one was that?"
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, "Yeah, okay, go away."
Yeah.
first comic book appearance was Batman Adventures number, I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
20, I don't remember.
Well, she came out in the animated series.
Yeah,
first,
she
right?
came
Yeah,
out.
and then like a year
was great for
later,
that.
she
It was
showed
the
up.
Then she started showing up.
Yeah.
Which was
Something
for kids.
very similar happened to John Diggle on Arrow. He hadn't appeared in the comic books before the TV show Arrow, and now he's in the comic books.
Yes.
Yeah.
What, Savage? No. What-
No, John Diggle.
Right, I know, but what did they call him?
They,
Spartan.
Spartan.
Yeah.
That- I knew it started with an S, but just whatever.
So what's the difference between Marvel and DC? Do you feel like there's a fundamental difference between how the heroes are created, or that they?
They always said that the Marvel characters had more problems. Like people could relate to regular
they're
people.
more flawed people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Could relate to
Spider-Man
them.
had to worry about rent every month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Superman never he just go. I need a rent. I'll go get me a diamond, crush it. Here's a creep piece of coal, crush it into a diamond. Here's my rent.
Little heat vision, you're good to go. So Marvel has the more kind of humanized characters,
Right, and they were all basically humans.
Additionally, I feel like in general, the DC characters tend to go a little bit more darker, and where the granted, not all the time, Marvel tends to go a little more lighthearted. Mm-hmm. At least,
See, it's funny. When I was growing up, it was the exact opposite.
Yeah,
DC was the lighthearted.
The
Basically
adventures
because
were
of
really
Batman,
silly.
Batman
often.
66.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And back then, the books, you'd have like thicker comics with an original story and then reprints of stories from the 40s and 50s.
For a quarter.
Which, Batman was, time traveling and fighting Indians and the Old West and just ridiculous stuff. And I really like the lighthearted aspect of those early DC stories that I read. Tony?
I would say like when I started collecting, my dad got me into it. He gave me a couple of his old his like 70s era Marvel comics, and
They're good ones to get.
Yeah,
not the 80s or the 90s.
and those were a lot of fun to read for me. The stories to me felt lighthearted. And then when I got older, I started finding Batman comics, and I'm sure Billy can attest that.
Post-killing joke and Dark Knight and all that.
Yeah, that's when they got dark.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's classic graphic novel. I remember getting that when I was in college and reading it and just being completely amazed.
Death in the Family, Death of Jason Todd.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where people got to vote on whether or not he survived, and they wanted him dead. That said a lot about the audience, didn't
Here's-
it?
Robin.
The reason why is because they recorded it, and a lot of people called in multiple times to kill him.
Oh, jeez.
People really didn't like him.
They really didn't like that particular
Yeah.
character, apparently.
And now
And
he's Red Hood.
the kill vote only won by I don't know the number, but it wasn't by a lot.
I don't know. I wouldn't know that one. I actually didn't follow it so much.
There's an excellent Kevin Smith does a podcast called Fat Man on Batman.
Okay.
And he interviewed Denny O'Neil.
Denny O'Neil, yeah.
About that, and it's a really fun listen. If you go back to smodcast.com, click
All
on
right.
Fat Man.
I'm
on
about to
Batman.
throw myself under the bus big time here. Who's Denny O'Neil?
One of the classic Batman
Okay.
writers.
Him
Thank
and
you.
Neil Adams did the classic run of Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, Green Arrow,
Where
Batman.
Speedy
Okay.
was a drug addict.
Yep.
Show
Oh,
yeah.
him shooting up on the
Oh,
cover.
jeez. Okay.
My word, Speedy, a junkie?
Yeah.
Wasn't
Those
that like
are great.
Didn't they actually have to go without the comic book? The
comic
book
code?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But Marvel did that.
It's interesting because that was the reason why the comic book code was created was to shy away.
Seduction of the innocent.
Yeah, and it's interesting for me because I'm really into like video games. I see a lot of people talk about how like video games are corrupting our youth. Back comic books were back in the day were corrupting the youth then.
Yeah, because back then you had like ECs and you had a lot of the horror stuff back in there. You had a lot of bondage covers and
Well, Wonder Woman's creator was
he was kind of living an alternate lifestyle.
yeah.
And that's
Him
why
and his
I've heard
wife
that
and
one.
his girlfriend.
and now that's why now Wonder Woman is bisexual. Even though you
that was a
kinda
recent
knew
thing.
that,
Yeah, I did
But
hear about
nobody
that.
cared about it.
Yeah.
And now they brought it out.
Now they brought it. Well, it's in vogue to talk about stuff like that. Now we can actually start bringing that into the mainstream. We can start talking about these different things. All right, this is going to. Now let me just point out the fact this is a very interesting dynamic here. I'm noticing, Billy, Wayne, Tony, and myself, the guys on the panel. We're having a great time. We're talking away.
Yeah, I feel bad. I've noticed
That's
too.
okay.
Tanya, Becca, and Dee have been strangely quiet.
I'm
just
bobbing
listening.
back and forth between DC Comics and Marvel Comics, just kind of like getting just some information going. Where would I start? What would I? And not like number one. Of course, it would have to be the first comic of something.
Let me ask you this. I mean, it doesn't have to be about a particular book, a TV, a movie, or anything. You don't have to worry about genre or publishing house or whatever the case may be. And Dee, I'm going to have you be the first to answer this question. Who's your favorite superhero?
That would be you, Deanna, not me.
Yes, I know. I would have to say I don't really have one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up, I would come home and I'd watch the cheesy Batman show with Adam West, and
God, yeah.
I love it.
because it was rerunning when I get home from school. So that was kind of the first thing that I remember as far as a superhero. So I would probably lean toward Batman, but it's not something. I'm not into the comics clearly. Because I've kind of just been very quiet.
And that's
but
fine.
I also kind of get the sense that most of the people I know and see, comics tend to be more followed by those of the male persuasion, guys. I don't see a lot of girls running out and getting comic books.
Hunter?
She's one of the rare few.
I got to tell you, I'm starting to see more and more.
There's
of them, though.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm starting.
Yeah.
It's starting. It's definitely becoming a little bit more broader spectrum, a little more popular among both genders.
But it is guy dominated.
It is definitely guy
was, yeah.
dominated. It really is. How about you, Becca? Who's your favorite superhero?
Okay, I got one for each universe. In the Marvel universe, my favorite is definitely Captain America.
Okay.
I'm just in love with the character.
Well, I know you cosplayed that for us at Superhero
Strong-
Weekend
yeah.
at Strong
Yeah.
Museum.
Had a bit of
Which
fun
Captain America?
Steve Rogers.
there. Yeah.
She's all about
Rogers. And then in DC universe, it's Nightwing, the original Robin.
Okay.
Right.
I just-
Okay.
I got into that because I watched the Young Justice series on Netflix.
That's an excellent series.
And I
was
just
really well done.
fell in love with Dick Grayson, and then I just started going online and looking more into the backstory, and I just fell completely in love.
All right. You know where I'm going now.
I'm kind of along the lines with Billy. I remember watching Justice League with my brother as a kid on a Saturday morning.
Oh, same here. Yeah, we even played that a couple podcasts ago. We made a reference to that.
So that's I would say I'm more of a DC, but that's because what I've been exposed to.
Mm-hmm. And nothing wrong with that. Tanya, how about you?
Definitely growing up, my favorite superhero was definitely Wonder Woman. It's like that was the person I aspired to be.
That was the role model for the girls.
It was. I wanted the bracelets that could deflect bullets and the tiara and the invisible jet and all that type of stuff. But more recently, I've hopped over to the Marvel universe, and I think Black Widow can kick some major ass.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
I've been channeling my inner Black Widow with my red hair lately. Yeah, because I think because she doesn't necessarily have superpowers per se.
It's just training.
That it's just training and things like that, and backroom politics that she's got to get things like that. So it's just like watching her in the movie where she's working and Phil Coulson's on the phone going da 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 da, and you can hear her in the background. It's just
Please hold.
yeah. I like those would be the two. So
Okay.
a DC and a Marvel.
And that's awesome. Now, it's not just DC and Marvel, is it? There's plenty of we've made reference to a couple of them out.
Even though
Image,
it's
Dark Horse
sold
Saga.
70% of the comic book market.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's Coke and Pepsi, and then there's
Everybody else.
Dr. Pepper and everything else. They all do the same thing, but they do it in different ways. Do we feel that these other houses, do they push Marvel and DC at all? Do you think that they, or do Marvel and DC kind of concede the market, like for the darker, edgier, or more gothic, more closer to R-rated type stuff? Those edgier, nastier stories. Do you think that DC and Marvel said, okay, we're not going to touch that. We're going to keep doing the big family-friendly stuff. Let these guys handle the niche, or do these other things push Marvel and DC to want to try and keep the edges a little more sharp
I'd have to say when some of the other companies like First and Valiant came out and they did edgy stuff that pushed Marvel and DC to do like DC did their Vertigo line, and that's where you get Sandman and Constantine and all their horror, or at least all their darker stuff.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
it's just that
I definitely feel like they pushed that the other publishing houses pushed DC more than they pushed Marvel. I think Marvel more conceded the market, where DC was like, "Hey, we were doing this too."
Okay.
But then Marvel and DC always have the tendency during the summer to like fill up the market with miniseries and expanded series and and crossovers that go through every single Marvel book or DC book, so you have to buy the entire Marvel or DC.
Yeah, you're talking to someone that's buying every DC title right now, and I'm spending way too much.
I haven't been able to get to my shop in a couple of weeks, so I can imagine what's waiting for me on the pull box.
And now
the
the DC titles are coming out, a bunch of them bi-weekly.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's just. I remember when they did that with Spider-Man. I think it was like early '90s.
Or X-Men.
And X-Men, yeah, they were bringing them out, twice a month, and I was just, oh wow, yeah. I got a stack of unread comic books at home. Do you have that stack that you just haven't been able to get to?
I only collect Superman, so I can read through.
Oh, so you're able
quick.
to keep up. I think I'm working. I think I'm pulling on a regular basis about 4 or 5 different titles right now, so I'm not hugely out of it. But if I don't have time, then I've got the stack showing up on my floor. All right, Wayne, let me ask you this, because I think you and Tony, you might be able to be. What is your favorite non-DC, non-Marvel title right now? If there's any, if you've, you said you just collect Superman, but are you seeing anything that caught your attention? Anything you might have picked up?
Well, I've picked up some stuff. I've picked up Doc Savage, because I'm a big Doc Savage fan. So
tell us a little bit more about Doc Savage.
He's the Man of Bronze. He's just like he's kind of a superhero, kind of a scientist, kind of a jack of all trades type of person. Kind of done in
there was a 70s movie starring Ron Ely, right?
Yeah.
Good. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they got a new movie coming out with The Rock.
Really?
Supposedly with The Rock.
Rock is.
He's in everything these days.
He's in everything now.
That man is a machine.
Yeah. He's great career for him.
Yeah. How about you? Do you see? Are you collecting or seeing anything that's non DC, non Marvel?
Walking Dead graphic novels.
All right, Walking Dead graphic, very cool.
I'm actually watching Walking Dead tonight later with my family.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are you thinking of it so far?
I'm
the
thinking
new season.
It's definitely interesting. It's the reverberations are going to be felt for
a while,
for a long time.
I gave up on Walking Dead like last season when Rick went totally crazy. I gave up.
I never was able to get into it. I mean,
it's zombies. I'm tired of zombies.
Oh yeah, I can understand that.
The zombie apocalypse is the latest fad.
Yeah.
I even have the badge on the back of my SUV. Zombie apocalypse outbreak team or something like that.
We just fixed my dad's truck, and it's got that too on the back of his truck.
We were coming through the Wegmans parking lot yesterday, and it was a decal on someone's back window. Like
your hands are about 3 feet wide at the moment.
Yeah, and it wasn't the small little emblem that's like button sized. It took up the entire back window.
Okay.
And Randy's like, I need that.
All right. Well, I'm going to answer my own question now. Non-DC, non-Marvel. I've actually, I think it was earlier this year, Mark Miller had come out with a couple of mini series that tied into his little Miller universe that he's come up with. One of them was Starlight. Which it almost has like a Buck Rogers kind of a feel to it, Flash Gordon kind of a feel to it, but the hero is the older version. So he's retired. He'd gone on these great space adventures when he was younger and returned back to the normal world where people just think he's a crackpot because he probably went delusional or something, like some traumatic event. So it was and then all of a sudden this otherworldly space that he had all these adventures, and they came back to get him because he was this great legendary hero, and terrible things were happening, and they wanted him to save the world again. So it was how he.
Isn't it like The Incredibles?
You know what? In a little bit, but it was just him. He didn't have like a whole team or anything like that. But yeah, there's a feel of that. Now that you mentioned The Incredibles, the other one.
Interesting thing about The Incredibles, it's the last time someone made a good Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, yeah, absolutely. When you think about it, I mean, that's
The
the Fantastic
only
Four
time.
movie. Yeah,
The only
Fantastic
time
Four
they
movie
made
we
a good-
wanted to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the Pixar movies down the road too, but and then the other Miller one was Chrononauts, which is basically two scientists who are part of a research team that figures out time travel, and they go back in time, and it all unravels. It all goes, the whole thing comes off the track, and it goes weird. And it's how they deal with this back and forth thing, and how tampering with time can screw so many things up. And then it was a very interesting series. For me, it was as a diehard Doctor Who fan my entire life. It was watching somebody try to be Doctor Who and failing, but having an entertaining time doing it. It was a really good series nonetheless. Mm-hmm. So and then the third one I want to bring up that wasn't Marvel or DC is Painkiller Jane. Have you guys ever heard of Painkiller Jane at all?
Sci-Fi Channel did a mini-series.
Yeah,
which was
bad because Christiana Loken should never ever be given the lead of anything.
I was like, Witchblade.
Oh, God. But and Painkiller Jane, the premise is basically like a lot of superheroes in the past. There's a lab experiment gone wrong, and because of that, she has no sense of actual feeling. So you can beat the hell out of this person, and she's just going to keep going because she doesn't know she's injured. That's I guess the premise. And she heals very quickly because of the things that she's been exposed to. Not like Wolverine level, healing, but
like Deadpool level healing.
No, it's a slow thing.
That's too quick.
When you beat on her, she eventually will slow down,
Okay.
and it'll take her a while to heal, but she doesn't feel it. So you can clock her with a baseball bat, and she's just going to shake it off and keep going. So the character is very dynamic. It's that broken soul. She's been through a lot. She has had a lot of trauma, and she just wants to do the right thing, but she doesn't care if people are, she likes you. She likes you. She doesn't care if that's a guy, that's a girl. She's going to, whatever happens to be available at the time in terms to get her mind off of what's going on around her.
Omnisexual like Jack Harkness.
Yes.
I love Jack.
Goes out into the universe and dances. So I thought it was, it wasn't just, the body nature of it. I thought it was interesting to see how they developed this character and the way that she would approach things. It was very much, watching like a Marvel superhero just taking off the leash and letting them rip. So those are ones that I would recommend if anybody was interested in picking up a book or two.
And you haven't asked, but my favorite non-DC, non-Marvel.
Did I not get? I'm sorry.
It's a weird one. The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It's a dark take on Sabrina the Witch.
Yes.
Really?
Oh, wow.
It's a Rosemary's Baby-ish. Wow. Really, like I said, dark
Is this a
version.
recent one?
It's issues come out sporadically
Okay.
at best. It's only had 6 issues in the last year and a half, Wayne. About.
I remember
But man, is it good!
And what was the title again?
The Chilling Adventures of
Of
Sabrina.
Okay, I'm going to write that down because I want to check that out.
But then you're pulling up. I was seeing you had Scott Pilgrim.
Oh yeah,
Pilgrim.
that's a good
if you're
one.
talking manga, Scott Pilgrim, and then there was Kick-Ass.
Yeah,
Those are two.
Those are good.
Those are good.
If we're going,
Wasn't Kick-Ass Marvel?
No,
No, I thought he was
that's
independent.
alternative.
Tanya, you're on research over there. Can you pick up little Kick-Ass?
Because it's Mark Millar.
Mark Millar.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy they were talking about is a minute ago.
hey, if we're going to talk about manga, One Punch Man.
Is that the
Punch Man.
Or Full
movie,
Metal
the film?
Alchemist.
Kick-Ass. The movie was based on it.
The movie was based on a graphic
I
novel.
get-
Kick-Ass.
Icon Comics. Okay.
Icon.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
For some reason, I had
And when
Marvel
I saw Scott Pilgrim, it's like I had to get the books after I saw the movie because it was so great.
I'm wanting to watch that movie. I think I've watched the first 10 minutes and I was distracted and then never went back to it. So
It's a great
It's
movie.
my homework
Yeah.
assignment to myself
They
before the
make
next time I see
movies
Wayne.
in Canada.
Canada.
It was great movie.
That's good. All right. So that's a recommend. So we always try to educate. So we're putting together a recommended viewing and reading list for our listeners.
Yeah, I was looking at how to get into the superhero comics.
Okay.
Simple guide for those new to comics, where possibly to start.
What's their recommendation?
Pick a character that interests you, and then just go ask your friendly comics book shop employee to recommend a book starting. Like, not necessarily start with Superman or Spider-Man 1 to get to Spider-Man 700.
Well, they just did Rebirth, so they've redone Superman, kinda.
Again.
Do you have a favorite Superman, like graphic novel or trade paperback? a collection that's like the story you would say, read this.
All-Star Superman.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Real good. My favorite Superman, and this isn't a starting point because you need a history, is Red Sun.
Yes.
What if Kal-El landed in Russia instead of America?
That was a good one.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good.
They have the Rens. Didn't they
He
have
had the
a
hammer
red?
and sickle on his chest.
Yeah, they had
instead
a
of
Red
the
Sun Superman meet up with
Batman.
No, a different. Thinking about when I'm trying to remember what it was, but they had a bunch of different Supermans from different universes meet up, and
What was that?
I forget what it was too. But one of my favorite interactions was Red Sun Superman meeting up with uber capitalist Superman.
Here would be the two that I would want to see in action would be the Canadian Superman and the Italian Superman. I want to see if Kal-El landed in Rome. You know, I'll go save the world, but after a dish of pasta.
And also,
pasta.
Superman Grounded
Yes,
is one.
those were excellent.
That's like
John
the
Michael Straczynski.
Yes,
creator of the
it's
best
Man of
science
Steel.
fiction show,
Babylon
Babylon 5.
it's Man of Steel if they did it right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where Superman wants to get back in touch with the Earthlings that he's sort of lost touch with,
So he goes on a
and just
walkabout.
walks across America.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a recent one?
No, it's not recent. Maybe like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's an excellent series. It's an excellent series.
Yeah.
How
and
many
it's
books was
collected,
that?
It's collected in a trade paperback,
Yeah.
Okay.
too. Yeah.
All right, so I got to get my hands on that because I really want to see that story now.
That's where he helps the suicide victims.
That's a great. Wow, is that such a good
All
2
right.
or 3 pages? Maybe 2 of my favorite
All right,
pages.
Superman Grounded. I'm jotting that down on my homework for myself. See, I spend more time actually learning. This is why I have you guys around me, so I can learn things that I need to be exposed to.
There's a lot.
For me to start reading comic books, I need to start at number 1 of a series, just like how Billy has
Yeah.
to finish a TV series before he'd go on and things like that. For
You know
me,
what?
reading, I need to start not necessarily at the beginning, but at the
All 700 issues of Superman. Go!
Yeah.
no, but at the beginning
I don't
of
think that's really that
a
necessary,
series or
though.
a storyline.
I mean,
Rebirth. If you're going to do most of the DC books have just restarted recently, so you can do those would be easy. They're only on issues like 5 or 6 right now.
They do short arcs, too. Like each comic book will have like a 4 or 5 issue arc where it's a particular adventure. Like this could have been a TV episode,
Right.
these 4 or 5 issues. My very first the oldest Amazing Spider-Man I have is 297. Which had involved, believe that it was the Spider Slayer or something like that. But it was the warm-up to the big 300 episode, which is where he finally got rid of the black outfit.
Venom.
And Venom, yeah, and things like that.
See, I do know something.
You know something.
A
I'm
little
very,
bit.
Very proud of you. All right, but I jumped right in, and I was able to go, and then you notice.
It used to be the philosophy, treat the reader like every comic might be their first.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
So it
And they
wasn't
didn't
impossible to get in.
And they didn't do those 12 or
The miniseries.
miniseries. They were monthly, so every month you get the story be self-contained.
Yeah.
Yeah. There might be a to be continued once in a while.
Yeah, there could be. In fact, my very first comic book, a Justice League 114 or some 120, something like that. And so I read it, and it ended with the villain stealing half of the Justice League's powers. And I thought, wow, all these heroes are only going to have half their powers for the rest of their lives. And it bummed me out. And I didn't realize it was part 1 of a 2-parter. And I didn't get part 2 for another 5 years. When I read, I found it at a yard sale. And I read the story. Wait a second. They still have all their powers.
And that's why Billy has this whole completion fetish now.
That might be it.
That's what inspired
you
it.
do not like those to be continued.
Yeah.
That's why he has to
Well,
binge
nowadays,
watch
it's
the
very
whole
popular
series.
though. Nowadays, I mean, like Thor, they started the whole miniseries of Thor, in the past year and a half or so, where it was every story led to the next. It were all chapters of the same overall story. Marvel's very known for doing that nowadays, but back in the day, it was not as regular.
Every month would be something different.
Yep.
As long as I don't have to read the books backwards and right to left and bottom to top,
top to bottom,
and things
Oh,
like that.
like manga.
Yes, as long as I don't have to do that, I'll be good.
All right. So, again, another half hour well spent and a lot of fun. And we were going to come back to this because there's so much more about comic books to be talked
Maybe I'll
about.
be reading one by then.
Maybe you'll be reading one. I'm going to, we'll take you to a shop soon so you can do
No,
a
you
little
don't.
walk
You spend
around.
a lot of money.
You spend like, come
Oh,
on.
yeah.
What
I do is I just go over to the $1 bin and just go through that.
You'll know it's bad when you have a pull list.
Yeah, pull list, and then you find other stuff you like.
Yes.
Ugh.
That's just me in a bookstore.
Yeah.
I made a mistake one time of telling the guys at my shop that if you know my taste by now, if you see something I might find interesting, go ahead and throw it in there. And they just kind of stared at me for a second. I said, yes, I did say it. I know what I'm getting myself into. So, but all right, that was great. Thank you again for everybody. And thank you again, listener, for hanging out with us for another half an hour of nerdism and fun. So we're going to wrap it up at this point for another block, and we'll see y'all again soon.
Who's got the out cue?
Who's got the IQ? Tanya.
I do.
Okay,
Where's the music?
Talk.
Oh. Well, this has been Monkey Business Today, a Mighty Monkey production. Mighty Monkey Productions of Rochester, New York, are the creators and presenters of the Flower City Comic Con. We are presenting our second show May 20th and 21st of 2017 at the Rochester Riverside Convention Center. Please follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/FC3ROC.
And we will see you in brightest day, in darkest night.
No
evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
What kind of cult is this?
This is the Nerds.